What's up, guys? It's Dr. Murphy Medical Assistant, and our team at coronatestct.com. That's coronatestct.com. Today's date is August 12th, 2021, and today we are going to go over the status of COVID. That's right, COVID-19 in Connecticut. Status of COVID-19 in Connecticut. And we're going to give the parents a little respite here, right? We're going to give them a little respite here because not every parent that is squeamish about vaccination is a psychotic anti-vaxxer. That's right. Today on Murphy's Medical Minute, parental hesitancy. Normal or not? What's up, guys? Let me quick get into this and get the live stream presentation going here today. I think, let's see, we'll get the old view here. Hold on. We got to get the old presentation. Oh, man, there's a little... Let me get it set up as you watch here and see where we're at. What a pain in the buttocks. Let's start today. We're going to talk a little bit about how the parents are all right, how the kids are all right, because there's nothing wrong with the kids, and there's nothing wrong with the parents, and there's nothing wrong with parental hesitancy. So today, August 12th, 2021, Dr. Murphy is going to present to you COVID-19 pandemic. Who wants vaccines for kids? And who is this for? This is for our worried parents. This is for our worried parents. And I'm here to tell you right now, I'm a worried parent. I'm a worried parent. I've been a worried parent since January of 2020. In fact, if you really want to know why did I set up coronatestct.com, it's to protect the population. And selfishly, it was to protect my kids. I didn't want my kids to get COVID-19. I saw the videos in China. I saw the data in Korea. I saw what was going on in Italy, and I saw people dropping dead on the streets. And I said, there is no way that's going to be my kids. There is no way that's going to be my kids. And so we entered the fray to test, treat, isolate, and trace. And we're still doing that to this day. I can tell you right now, as we get ready to reopen West Haven, because the numbers continue to climb, we see vaccine breakthrough. Why are we testing still? Because we're not ignoring it. If we ignore this thing, it's not going to go away. Not maybe it will go away. It's never going to go away if we ignore it. And we're going to test. Because if you can't test, you can't do the rest. And so you need to get through your thick skull that there's going to be vaccine breakthrough. You need to get through your thick skull that unvaccinated patients are going to get infected too. What's our problem? We don't want to admit that vaccine breakthrough variants exists. Our other problem is that we are having children go unvaccinated. Why? We're going to investigate that today. The big problem is there's lack of long-term data on vaccination in kids. And the studies that were done weren't done to the level of what were done for adults. Frankly, by using proxies, we didn't do the full work. We traveled at warp speed. That's right. So what's the solution? We got to let the parents believe. We got to let them review the data. And also, I think we got a cohort test at school. So will we see children spread Delta like wildfire like they do with influenza? And will vaccines prevent the spread? That remains to be seen. So, vaccine breakthrough. Again, to reiterate, the CDC dropped the ball on vaccine breakthrough, and only now are they playing catch up. They're playing catch up with the outpatient vaccine breakthrough. And remember, is this a case of wealth versus health? You know, the CDC said they didn't have the funds to track vaccine breakthrough, and I think that, again, is manipulation and lies, unfortunately. Why? Because we need to have people open up. We need to have the confidence to open up our economy and increase the velocity of money. Otherwise, we've got some big problems. But the best way to open up is with trust. And is there going to be real trust of vaccines when we fail to properly document the breakthrough? Well, listen, we can all hullabaloo and academic debate about the denominator of the people being vaccinated. And yes, would it be great in the world that 100% of all hospitalized patients were vaccinated patients? If 100% of the population was vaccinated, the answer would be yes. That would be fantastic. Unfortunately, we have some nuance here and we have to go through it. Under-testing has led to deflated numbers. The CDC is not coordinating. The states, I can tell you, they at first really wanted to know about breakthrough testing, especially in the state of Connecticut, where we have been testing the entire time. Where's the reporting going? Why aren't we tracking all of it? Who benefits? And to reiterate for everyone, vaccine breakthrough is real, right? Vaccine breakthrough is real. It's going to happen. We removed the NPIs and assumed that vaccine breakthrough wouldn't happen, but it did. It did happen. Delta is more effective. It's more infective. So is Lambda, likely, B1621. It's going to be more infective. So again, the slide here is to reiterate the effectiveness of the flu vaccine. Vaccine effectiveness of the influenza vaccine as studied in 2020 from the 2018 to 2019 season in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Washington found that it was 29% effective with a confidence interval of 21 to 35%. It didn't mean we shouldn't vaccinate those people, and in fact, the people that were most vulnerable should have been vaccinated. A big push to influenza vaccinate the most vulnerable among us. And you know, we did vaccination. We did a big flu vaccination at the towers. Tower 1 and Tower East in New Haven, where we took care of a lot of patients that way. Well, are we going to see the same thing with COVID? Are we going to need to see year after year, booster after booster to stop these new strains? Is there going to be a never-ending story? And frankly, that's the message that's being portrayed out there. We're going to need boosters forever. And that's the debate in the scientific community. And what has it led to? Parental hesitancy. If you look at how parents view vaccination, it's not, we need to stop shaming those who aren't vaccinated, and we need to start engaging them. We need to start engaging them. Why? 40 to 60% of parents, 40 to 60% of all parents are hesitant on vaccinating their children. This is not some lunatic fringe. This is not a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Kaiser Family Foundation, 40 to 60% of parents are hesitant on vaccination for their kids. Why? They want more data. A full 1 in 4 adults, 1 in 4 parents is waiting for more data. Why? Because the original studies on kids sucked. They were not as robust as the studies on adults. That being said, most parents are not conspiracy theorists. And 8 in 10, 80% of parents trust their pediatrician, which means there's 20% of people who don't trust their pediatrician. But what I find most interesting in the Kaiser Foundation study is the fact that only 42% of parents support vaccine mandates. The majority of parents do not support vaccine mandates in school. Again, I will repeat it. The majority of parents do not support vaccine mandates in school. They don't. The majority oppose. Why? Do they trust the data? The parents are not trusting what is being presented to them, and they are asking the hard questions. I can tell you, as a physician who talks to parents on a daily basis, they are asking the hard questions. And the level of paternalism that they're getting back in response is insane. I can tell you myself, I wrote an email to my kid's pediatrician, and I said, You're recommending vaccine. What data are you using to recommend that vaccine? And have you done a risk-benefit analysis of the absolute risk reduction from COVID or long COVID or adverse outcomes that are coming because my kid's going to get sick from COVID-19, right? They're asking hard questions. But this is nothing new. Ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing new. There is nothing new about this. It doesn't make parents evil. If you look in the American Academy of Pediatrics in their journal that they published just last year, they looked at hesitancy about routine childhood and influenza vaccines. Here's what they found. You want to know what they found? Here's what they found. They found that most of the kids that they asked, most of the parents, their kids were in excellent health or very good health. Most of the kids, excellent or very good health. And they studied kids from all walks. They studied kids from all walks. But interestingly enough now, almost half of the kids that they studied were in the 11 and older age group. This is the same age group that we're looking at vaccinating for COVID right now. What did they find? Here's what they found. Put simply, you can read this whole slide and it's fantastic. Parents believe that childhood vaccinations are essential for their children's health. Polio, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, meningitis, even Gardasil. The majority of parents believe that these vaccines are essential for their kids. But you know what else they found? They only found that 38% of parents strongly agreed that the flu vaccine is beneficial for their child. 38%. Oh, the magic 40% number. The 40% number strongly agreed that flu vaccine was good for their kids. 40%. And in fact, 1 in 4 adults that were parents didn't think the flu vaccine was good for their kids at all. 1 in 4 believed that the flu vaccine would not benefit their kids. Wait a second, what was the number of hesitancy that we were looking at here? 1 in 4 parents were waiting for more data. Is there any surprise? The parents that don't trust the flu vaccine to help their kids could be the same parents that don't trust COVID-19 vaccination to benefit their kids. And when you look at the flu vaccine, is there any surprise? The flu vaccine in 2018 and 2019 season was only 29% effective at preventing influenza. I can tell you I was through that season, and you know what I told the people who got the flu vaccine? Well, it prevents against hospitalization and death. And just because you got the flu, it probably would have been worse if you didn't have the vaccine. Sound familiar? Sounds familiar to me. 1 in 4 parents did not believe that the flu vaccine is beneficial for their children. 1 in 4. Interestingly enough, 1 in 4 parents strongly disagreed with the following statement. I do what my child's health care provider recommends about the flu vaccine. 27% of parents don't listen to the pediatrician when they recommend flu vaccine for the kids. They ignore it. They ignore it. They blow it off. And they don't bring their kids for flu vaccination. 1 in 4. Sound familiar, guys? Sounds totally familiar because they know that the flu vaccine is not terribly effective at preventing influenza. And guess what? 4 in 10 parents of children under 12 say they want to wait and see before getting their child vaccinated for COVID-19. Take a look at the ages, right? Between 5 and 11 years old, under 5 years old, 70% of parents, 70% of parents say, we're going to wait and see, or we're definitely not going to give our under 5-year-old vaccine for COVID-19. This is not some lunatic fringe. This is not a lunatic fringe. And nothing drives me crazier than this. By polarizing and attacking those that are unvaccinated, we're not helping anyone and we're not leading to greater vaccination rates. And as we see, post-vaccine myocarditis happens. It happens in boys. It happens in girls. They end up with reduced ejection fractions at the time. The majority of cases recover. The majority of cases recover. But unfortunately, as we continue to alienate those that are unvaccinated, we have some big problems. And so I want you guys to take a look at these. I want you to take a look at these. Right, Andy Slavitt, who I followed for the entire course and have great respect for, goes out and says, if people who go out and buy fake vaccine cards get COVID, do they expect someone to put them on a real ventilator? Come on, man. Come on. Are we depriving medical care? And this is the problem. No doctor would ever say that well, wait a second. I've seen on Twitter, there are doctors that say we shouldn't care for those that refused vaccination or faked a vaccine card. Clearly, none of these doctors have ever dealt with addiction medicine. Or if they have had such negative countertransference that they never want to see those patients again. But that's not what we do as doctors. As doctors, we love all, we treat all, the best we can, as best we can. But here's what we don't do and what we shouldn't do. We shouldn't trick the lay public into thinking that a vaccine is fantastic and then move the needle when the science, when the data proves us to be incorrect. We need to admit fallibility. We need to admit the limitations of the data, and we need to be able to say, listen, we were wrong, but here's what we're right about. And here's why we think you should continue to do this, because the data proves this. And the data proves vaccines in adults in vulnerable populations prevent hospitalization and death in adults. So when I see people try and move the goalposts or mess around, you can see here Ryan McNamara, right? He's a research scientist, postdoc, and he said the distinction between infection and disease states. So he's trying to say that the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine was not a SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. It was a COVID-19 vaccine, and COVID-19 is really being really sick. So the vaccine works against COVID-19, but not against SARS-CoV-2, which is absolute garbage. It's absolute garbage, and I call him on it. Shifting the goalpost is not a way to earn the trust of parents. Saying that the nomenclature is different is garbage. We have to be honest and transparent, not shifty. We can't be shifty. And speaking about shifty, when Dr. Fauci says, listen to the CDC and the FDA, don't listen to Pfizer, we'll tell you when to get boosters, it rings a little hollow. It rings a little hollow. Why? Why does it ring a little hollow? Let me show you why. The CDC is not tracking all breakthrough cases. Although they seem uniquely qualified for the task, they are not. And they did not. So forgive me, Dr. Fauci, if there are parents out there who are a little shy on the government right now. And instead, what needs to happen? There needs to be truth-telling. There needs to be truth-telling about the reduced protection of the mRNA vaccines versus symptomatic Delta infections. Dr. Eric Topol has said this, and now we have science and data that proves this. We have a leaked set of slides from the CDC that indicate this. And at best estimates, a 50 to 60% protection from infection and symptomatic infection is what we can expect. And let me tell you right now, that's a hell of a lot better than the flu vaccine was. This is a great vaccine. It's a fantastic vaccine, especially for those who need protection, those of us who are most vulnerable. And so what was Dr. Topol talking about? Let me tell you what he's talking about. He was talking about the data that is out there, and reminder, we have more data than we have knowledge, in regards to vaccination. Here's what we found. In the Provincetown study, we found that there was a similar cycle time for the vaccinated and unvaccinated. We found that approximately 1% was hospitalized. Very low rate of hospitalization. With Public Health England, we now have a 60% effectiveness rate for AstraZeneca versus symptomatic infections. 60%. In Wisconsin, we found a similar viral load in a pre-peer-reviewed study now in medRxiv. In Israel, they're reporting a 64% effectiveness of Pfizer. In the most recent report that they let out, that effectiveness dropped to 39%, which led to a policy change. Therefore, if you're older than 60, you get a booster. And they're giving boosters in Israel. And we're going to have more data on Israel. And frankly, it's really sad that in the United States, we have to rely on another country for the majority of our data. That has to be fixed. In addition, the UK REACT study showed between a 49 to 60% effectiveness versus symptomatic infections. More UK data. Ream after ream of data have shown that the real world effectiveness has dropped from the studies that were published by the vaccine manufacturers. We need to not freak out about it. I got Johnson & Johnson, and like I said, I produced some autoantibodies that I've never produced again ever in my life before. But the goal is to not freak out and to do some things proactively to watch. We need to be proactive here. And I did. I went and I got myself antibody tested. I tested my antibodies, and what did I find? If completely non-reactive was 0.01 and reactive was 2 or greater, I was found non-reactive at 0.27 quantitative units. 0.27. 6 months out. We need to be honest. We need to admit the fact that vaccination is going to wane in effectiveness. And we have to tell these parents. Parental trust is earned. Parental trust is earned. The majority of parents in the United States oppose vaccine mandates in the schools. They oppose vaccine mandates in the schools. This is not some lunatic fringe, Andy Slavitt. This is not some lunatic fringe, doctors who want patients who are unvaccinated to die, which is insane, by the way. I don't know how you can be a doctor and wish patients to die. That's like saying all alcoholics or all cigarette smokers should be left to die, rather than fight the addiction, rather than fight the lack of knowledge. That's a defeatism that I can't stand for. So, in conclusion, we have to earn parental trust. The most valuable person in the world to a parent is their child. They will even shortchange their own life. They'll take more risks with their own life. But a parent who wants to see more data on whether they vaccinate their child or not is not in the wrong here. They are not lunatic fringe. They are not child abusers. They are the majority of the population. And our job now is we have to convince the parents. Not with a dictum, not with a law, but with education and with better studies and better data. Tough crap if we don't have the data. Get the data. Get the studies. Get the studies. Don't say follow the science about a study that has 3,000 patients in it that would never be powered to identify an adverse effect in 1 in 5,000. 1 in 5,000. If my kid's head fell off, but it was only 1 in 5,000 people, would I give them the vaccine? Probably not. We have to power studies to be able to earn parents' trust. If we want a vaccination campaign for children, we need to earn the right to administer those vaccines. And so far, looks like we haven't done it. So there. In conclusion, I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on. First, I want to thank Dr. Patterson and Dr. Yogendra, the team at Incel. I want to also thank FLCCC, Dr. Curry, and Dr. Merrick. I want to thank Dr. Bean as well for really stepping up here. Dr. Patterson and Dr. Yo's diligence in getting to the root cause of what's causing long COVID has led to our successful treatment of long COVID patients. And in fact, just today, I was so happy to hear from 2 of those patients that they're fully recovered. That's right, patients fully recovered. Patients fully recovered. So I want to get to a couple of questions. I want to get some questions here. All right, so we got to get through our time here. We're at 25 minutes. I got a couple minutes left. So first off, Linda says, what is the breakthrough? So Linda, breakthrough infections happen in patients who are vaccinated. The breakthrough rate, we are now trying to elucidate and identify. You can look at vaccine effectiveness and use that as a general percentage to evaluate that stuff. We haven't tracked all of the vaccine breakthrough because we haven't done a good job testing. We're currently testing more, and we're now reopening our testing sites in West Haven. That'll start next week on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. We're back at the drive-thrus. I know, Linda, you want me to come to Bloomfield. I see that here as well. We'll try. We'll get through it as best we can. In addition to that, on the chat here, we have a question. Should I still get the flu shot every year? Well, yes. You should get the flu shot every year. The flu shot helps prevent against severe influenza. It helps prevent against hospitalizations. And if you're a vulnerable population, you should get your flu shot. And guess what? My kids got their flu shots. They got their flu shots. So, am I an extremist because I gave my kids the flu shots when a majority of parents still want more data, especially for their kids 5 years and under, especially for the kids 5 to 12 years old, 12 to 17 years old? 1 in 4 parents is still waiting for more data. Does that make them lunatic fringe? No, it doesn't make them lunatic fringe. It makes them a parent who recognize that their child is the most valuable thing to them, and they remain to be convinced. So we have to convince those parents, and we do that with truth and transparency. We don't do that with political shenanigans. So what do we need? We need more data. How do we get more data? We fund more studies. We fund the CDC. We encourage local governments to track breakthrough in kids. We encourage schools to test. And I'll tell you another thing before I wrap up here, because I got to wrap up in a minute. I was very hard on antigen testing. I was very hard on it. And that's because it had a false negative rate. It's because it had a false negative rate. But when you really look at it and when you really think about it, the antigen test is not a test for whether you have COVID or not. It's a test for whether you can spread COVID or not. And that's exactly what we need in schools. So I think we should be testing antigen tests on the regular in schools. Should we also be doing antigen tests in bars and restaurants? 110%. Should we be doing it in churches and at weddings? 210%. If we're going to be indoors with people, we can't rely on vaccinations alone. And I think, Michael Mina, if anyone could be here as a hero, it'd be nice for you to step up again. Enter the public fray. You taught me. I learned a lot from you. And I hate to say that about a Harvard guy. Do you believe that the jumble, so next question before we close out. Alan Peterson says, do you believe that the jumble of information on the whole COVID mess is for political survival of politicians? It seems that we have two distinct narratives. So I will tell you, there are a couple of things in this world that you can trust all the time. Sun comes up, sun goes down. Law of nature. Virus gonna virus. A virus is gonna mutate and change and try to kill us yet again. Better yet, viruses actually are going to try to replicate once again, because that's what a virus does. And when it mutates, sometimes those mutations enhance replication. Those viruses thrive. There's death and there's taxes. And there's politicians who are always going to try and get reelected unless there's some sort of term limits. Are they using this to get reelected? I think I just told you. Politicians are going to try and get reelected unless there's term limits. So I won't ascribe their motives for what they're talking about here. I think there are multiple narratives. I think there are multiple issues and a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise right now, and part of that's the fourth turning. Part of that is global warming. Part of that is the clickbait media and the social media that are out there designed to get more eyeballs, because that's how they get paid. Got to get more eyeballs, got to get more votes. How do we do it? We crank up the outrage button. We need to be good to each other. We need to do the best that we can. Because if we're not going to be good to each other, we're going to be the doctor saying, let the people that are unvaccinated die. They don't deserve a ventilator. Or we have Andy Slavitt saying, if you faked your ID card, we should give you a fake ventilator. Vaccine shaming. You're very welcome, Alan. Vaccine shaming is not going to help anyone. We need to remember, virus gonna virus, the sun gonna rise, the sun gonna set. Make sure you get your sun and hydrate and exercise and optimize your immune system for what's coming your way. It's in Florida, it's in Hawaii, it's in the South. Delta is on a stomping storm, and it's only gonna continue. Because the virus is going to virus. The best thing you can do for your body is protect yourself. If you're in a vulnerable population, get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. No excuse. Improve your vitamin D levels. Take care of your health and prepare. We are made to be well. But remember, winter is coming. This is Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates. Yeah, politician get a politician. That's what they do. It's Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates, our team at coronatestct.com. We open the West Haven front again for testing next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can see us in New Haven. You can see us in Stratford. You can see us in Stamford and in Greenwich. We're here for you guys. Take care of your bodies. They are made to be well. With